Welcome to the Bleed Redblacks podcast.
Best fans in the league right here, baby!
With your hosts, Colin and Mike.
Susie Q.
Produced by Mark and Johnny Z. Bleed Redblacks starts now.
Redblacks.
Gabriel is open in the end zone. Touchdown! The Ottawa fans and players are going crazy.
Your number one podcast for all things Red Black.
Left, Henry still on his feet. Now the toss, and it is caught for the touchdown. Wallace Miles.
Every season,
Echo drops the pass. End zone shot. Back right corner. Caught for the touchdown. Jamal Smith.
all season.
For Burris on first down, drops the pass, pressured in the pocket, takes off himself. Down to the goal line. Touchdown, Burris.
Hello and welcome to episode 4 of the Bleed Redblacks podcast. I'm Colin. We're back at our normal time, South Keys in the evening, and I'm joined here by the one and only season ticket holder, Mike. Hello, sir.
Good to be here. Normal time, different day.
Yeah. As soon as they said it, I'm like, oh, wait.
Yeah, no.
Normal time,
Right,
just 24 hours late.
Yeah, it's and like everything in Ottawa, I'm trying to blame it on FIFA, Women's World Cup soccer. You know, traffic.
Well, you told me to turn left at TD Place, and the sign was covered up, so I didn't know where to go. Sorry, bro.
The studio has a no re-entry policy as well. I should forgot to tell you guys.
Oh, snap.
Oh, snap. So let's get into women's FIFA.
Better bring. Oh, and obviously you hear the wonderful baritone to my left here, producer Mark. What's up, buddy?
Oh, it's going. It's going.
To your
Living the
radio
dream.
left, your TV right? I don't know.
Stage left.
Stage
Okay, yeah.
left. Yeah. It's a theatrical production.
So the women's FIFA is underway, and not exactly some tight matches to start. Norway beat Thailand 4-0. Germany romped the Côte d'Ivoire 10-0.
So those changes FIFA made to no contact 5 yards, it's working out pretty good.
I think so, yeah. So it's really weird going by. Like, I go by the stadium every morning on my way to work, and it's weird seeing it all decorated up in FIFA colors. And I mean, it's weird. When they first put those TD signs up, like I was like, ugh.
Yeah.
But it's really become part of the backdrop, right? And even watching the game, I watched a few minutes of it. I think it was 9-0 at that point. No, I don't know. It did. I didn't recognize the stadium. Like, they did a really good job of making it their own, you know. And from what we've heard, they've also displaced the staff and stuff too. They're taking over that barn for the month, right?
Yeah, they need the offices, some of the office space as well.
So regardless of the BS happening at FIFA headquarters,
who cares?
This is one of the world's largest sporting event. It's very important to our community and all the communities across Canada. And let's get out there and support our country. And save the Matlock action for afterwards.
Yeah, who cares?
You know, it's so out of our hands. Everyone's an expert this day. Mike talked about it last week. In the information age we live in, it's so easy to be an expert in everything.
Mm-hmm.
And at this point, what's done is done, unfortunately. Mm-hmm. And let's just do some first level thinking and just go out and watch some good soccer.
Watch a little bit of footy, eh?
And hopefully, if the planets are aligned, there's a possibility that Canada can play back here in Ottawa for the quarters. I think there's a few things.
Awesome to see.
That would be fantastic. And I mean, Christine Sinclair, she's covering up the big TD sign over the veil.
Yeah.
So it's pretty awesome. And obviously, she's our Captain Canada, and she's going to be the one that kind of takes us to that promised land if we can get there. So no ins and outs at FIFA.
Yeah, good call, Mark.
So what are they trying to keep the Bytown boys from getting out of control, or what? Like, I don't like this decision, especially when it's a double bill.
Yeah.
Obviously, they're just trying to keep money in the stadium. But I was pretty sure FIFA was a non-for-profit.
I thought we were staying out of all that, though.
What did I write that note?
Come on.
Well, who's getting the kickbacks now?
Oh, man.
Sorry, I was just trying to. That was just a comedic segue into
Well,
Colin ate a magnet.
Yeah. Oh my God. So last week we leave here. We did a Sunday morning podcast. I was scheduled to be on the road, do a little bit of driving, and the old Acura Soldier, she collapsed after being
Good
here.
old soldier.
Oh, she's a good soldier. Like, my iPad broke down here in studio last week, if you remember.
I didn't even know that was a thing.
What's that?
Like,
What's
an
that?
iPad breaking down.
Oh, I don't know. I just couldn't get it to start because my battery died. long story short. But and then we get in the car, and I just about get you to your house, and my dial starts screaming at me. Every light is coming on. The radio's flashing on and off. It was like we were being abducted by a UFO. And
I was like, hey, Mike, this is good here. This is good here. Late.
Late. And 2 blocks later in Chinatown, I'm pushing the car into a gas station and calling CAA. I want to thank the Wilford Brimley mustache from CAA from helping me out. He was great. And in true Larry David OCD fashion, I can't drive him home this week. I'm afraid it's a jinx. The magnet's still been eaten.
Yeah, so after the podcast, I'll be making the 13-kilometer trek back home. So
it's like leaving... never mind. Just go ahead. I was going to make a joke. I was going to make a joke about going to...
It's like walking from Winchester to Chesterville. It's no big deal.
Yeah, it's not a big deal.
So the Jays have won 5 in a row. Now, something that's kind of neat here, I guess, with baseball back in town. The Can-Am League is back in town.
Yeah, you're eating that up.
I am. I went to a few games last week as well, and I'm just loving it. And what I like about it is they got some hitters in that league. We're actually seeing dingers. We're seeing second basemen with 4 home runs. Like, you're actually seeing pro hitters. It's amazing. Anyway, so they've won 5 in a row, and the reason I bring up the Can-Am League is former Can-Am League All-Star Chris Colabello continues to shine.
Greg Zahn, eh?
As Greg Zahn puts it, he does not deserve to own a glove.
I know,
straight up. But he's got the longest hitting streak in MLB right now.
Yep.
And if they got to throw him at first, I mean, I think they know now right field is not the place for him. I think he'd better off just to go gloveless, just 2-hand cricket styles like traditional or something.
That's amazing.
Because he looks awkward, and even Batiste out there with a euchred shoulder is a lot better for the Jays. So I took it another Champs game. Awesome vibe, awesome beer, and season ticket holder Kev, Mike's longtime compadre, and the traditionalist.
Yeah.
will be happy to know they sell peanuts in the shell, and they have warm pretzels. #, mustard on my shirt.
Yeah.
Swear to God.
Yeah.
First bite.
Yeah.
First bite.
That's amazing.
But it was so delicious, and like that raw, those rocky, that salt, right?
Yes.
I swear, just give me that.
I do some games too down south, some MLB games quite a few times, and it's all about the dough. It's all about like pretzel dough. I'm not sure where we.
Oh, I thought you meant like the cha-cha-chang.
Well, it's about that too. You know how I roll.
I played the Shaggy.
Yeah.
Or was that Eni Kamos?
You've lost me already.
Eni Kamos? Okay,
lost me already. They're not a jam band.
The hot stepper.
Yeah, that's right. So the Supersonics. So awesome love coming from veteran Bleed Redblacks reporter.
Day one. This brother's
at
been there.
Sonics Conspiracy. Constant supporter, retweeter.
Just
so to honor him,
guy.
Great all-around guy. Just forwarding our stuff now that we have incorporated some pop culture into our podcast, pushing it at the bar down guys, and just really being
he's really helped us
spokesman
out.
for us.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And he's from Washington and Washington State, and obviously a Sonics fan. And to honor him and his team, I would like to honor the 36th anniversary. It was actually June 1st, 1979, the Sonics last championship.
Yes.
So after losing the season opener, the Sonics won 4 straight against Washington, who they had lost to the year before in the finals. And it was the only time the city had held a championship until the disgusting Seattle Seahawks won the Super Bowl in 2014.
Disgusting.
There's something like that team, like, ew, right? There's something about them. I don't know what it is. I just can't like them. They're like the new version of the Cowboys. So the Sonics left for Oklahoma in 2008. And the city has been crying to get their team back since. So hopefully we'll see some Sean Kemp jerseys back in Seattle soon.
Amazing.
So big mad props to you, Sonics Conspiracy, and
thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Free day in Centertown. I had a laugh. When my car broke down, I was almost able to give it away. I was ready to.
I should
for a moment.
Bring the toolbox over. We'll take that thing apart, man.
Part it out.
Just down in front of Kit Kat Variety on Preston.
Perfect. Actually, you get more per part from my car.
Yeah.
Actually, honestly, yeah.
Maybe, yeah.
Honestly,
yeah. So last Saturday, people were encouraged. Just anything you need, just put it out on the curb and put a free sticker on it. So, sounded like a perfect opportunity for me to finally rid myself of my VHS to DVD converter.
I saw that.
And even though the instruction manual was included, just in case someone had been living in a cave for the last 35
Yeah,
years.
it's good. It's a good way to transfer that E.T. movie you have over to DVD.
You know, it's funny though. Like I'm
It's good, man.
never traditional.
You're a traditionalist when it
If
comes
I'm jamming with Elliot, it's on VHS. Okay.
That's true. That's true.
So what the funny thing though is like I was so pumped to give stuff away. I don't know, it just feels good, right? Like
Yeah.
I don't need. It was a Panasonic boombox. We had like some other stuff, just stuff that people may need and I don't need anymore. Well, the amount of yard sales that day, like unbelievable. Like,
I know. As I drove home from that, I was like,
it's like people just
as I
like
drove
great
and then walked the rest of the way home after that, I saw a lot of yard sales. Yeah.
You know what you need to make you feel better?
What's that?
DVD VHS converter.
I love it. Are you selling it?
Oh, you kidding me? That thing was scooped up and they were selling it at a yard sale 5 minutes later.
I always, you mentioned that. I always feel like the Glebe yard sale is like that. Anytime you go to the Glebe garage sale, it's like you literally, by the time you get to like Fifth Avenue, you're seeing stuff that you saw on Second Avenue 2 years ago. You know what I mean? You're like, I saw that lamp.
It's like trickle-down economics, right? It starts at the top up by Powell Ave and then just works its way down until it gets to the grimy part on the other side of the bridge.
Exactly.
The other side of the bridge, exactly. Not
like
quite Glebe.
I bought this lamp for $10 a few years ago. I watched Antiques Roadshow last week, and this week I want $400 for it. Basically.
I thought you meant the lamp burnt my house down because the electrical is so bad.
Well, that too, right?
Oh, man. This is the Antique Roadshow podcast brought to you by
Sotheby's.
No. So the RedBlacks brought a lean offense to the hammer.
Yep.
We're going to do a little game recap. We got some stuff planned for the show, but yeah, I mean, we were hoping the guys would make some big plays, and we didn't see too many of them. But one positive was we were thinking the game was only going to be on the radio, and yeah, last minute they streamed it online.
Yeah, that was.
But for those people who were, pumped to enjoy something on terrestrial radio, get out your 2-4 Labatt Ice. Slip on your Nike cross trainers, rip the sleeves off that No Fear shirt, and you go for it.
Man, you just described my 1993.
That just happened.
That just happened. Yeah. That's why when I posted that picture on Facebook, I was trying to remember what beer I drank back then, and I'm pretty sure it was Labatt Ice.
I think I was riding the wave then.
Molson
Dry.
Molson Dry was pretty popular.
I think
because
it had the extra 0.5, so we thought it was plus EV to drink it.
Oh yeah, totally.
And don't forget, the best time to get him to ride the wave is during an NFL draft, live draft, or our live draft. Because 2 years ago he rode the wave, and he lost the internet, he lost the season. It was awesome.
You guys almost friend dumped me.
Yeah.
Like almost.
Who won the league last year without being at the draft? Anyways, we'll get into that later.
I don't know, but I find those guys that do auto draft, they always BS their way to a championship anyway.
I did.
But I must say, there are three people in this room right now.
Yep.
2 have championships.
Two.
Okay, seriously, we have to go there. Why do I even do this? I let you into my house every week.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just.
No re-entry policy takes effect next Monday.
I'm just flirting. It's how I flirt. I'm just flirting.
Are you watching the NBA?
I am. So
I meant to text you. I had a great line the other day. I opened up my book, and I took +9. I took the Cavs +9 the other night. With an under 200, and I cashed both.
Nice.
And I actually watched a bit of the game. So you should be proud that I watched some NBA final, but that's only because I had some money on it.
But we got a Canadian kid who's just shining right now.
Do we?
Yes, sir, we do.
Tell me about
plays for the Cavs, Mr. Tristan Thompson, and he's really coming into one of his own as one of the best defenders and rebounders in the NBA. Hard-working grinder, kind of like Charles Oakley kind of guy, tough, interior, not fancy or flashy, but LeBron's leaning on him big time. And obviously having LeBron there helps everybody, makes everyone better. But, I mean, Steph Curry is a stud. We know that. And LeBron is trying to prove that he can once again carry a team.
There's a game tonight to watch maybe.
Yeah, so series is tied at 1. And it's, I mean, like most basketball, the last 10 minutes are ridiculous. So if you can, set your alarm for 11 and
get up and
watch those last few. Because the first quarter, I don't even know what's happening. I don't even know.
Lazy
if they care.
basketball.
It's weird. Yeah. It's like.
Speaking of lazy, We were talking about how we're going to get to Montreal next week. We're a week away.
I know,
Broken record.
It's been sneaking up on us, and we've all been so busy, like professionally.
9 days to go.
The fact that we will be leaving our lives as like the adults that we are now, and regressing to like dirty punk rockers like soon, right?
Yeah.
Like
my Birkenstocks are clean.
Oh jeez.
So anyways, but yeah, we can't wait. You know,
it's gonna be just an awesome experience, and I know we keep bringing it up every week, but I feel like the stories, like when we come back, I'll just like, it almost takes 6 months to stop thinking about it. Then before you know it, we're planning for the next year.
Don't forget to pack your walkers.
That's right. So, sorry, we had a few technical difficulties last week, and we apologize to any fans who got an error message. In the future, we are aware when these problems happen. So, like, please don't tweet out that we're giving out error messages. Like, if you want to send us an email, that's great.
Yeah.
Or a message, a Facebook message, that's great too. But we are conscious of these
some
problems.
of you have my phone number. So.
We all like to listen to ourselves right after we're done recording. So.
I don't even have your phone number.
What? Keep it that way.
You go 3 a.m. Oh, there's so.
Let's have an adult conversation yet again.
That was the first time I used my last name on this show. The secret is out. I'm no longer anonymous. Can you want to get rid of that? Maybe I don't want to have people showing up.
Yeah, we can flatline that one out. Yeah.
Okay. So last week I turned back the clock big time. You guys would have been proud of me. Basement show, not the basement tapes. So I saw. I went to a punk house on Gladstone Street.
Yeah.
And saw a grind band from Ohio called Enabler play in a basement in front of 15 people.
$5 cover.
And this band just got back from Europe. This is a legit band. Like this band is amazing. My buddy and I went down, and I was just like, it's just so awesome to know that a legit underground, no pun intended, scene still exists in Ottawa. And this is like what the kind of show I would have grown up on, you know?
Yeah.
Like really.
I went to a lot of those shows too.
And it was just nothing like the smell of wet old concrete, wires running everywhere, and a 3-piece band from Ohio. Right?
Amazing.
And just a great experience. And I went with a buddy of mine, and we had an awesome time. It was just, I mean, next time I go, I'll show up with a flat of PBR, obviously.
Yeah,
but
fit in. You got to fit in.
Yeah, so it was just an awesome time, and I just love that there's still kind of local underground people really grinding it out and really giving these bands a place to showcase their amazing talents.
I'm excited for Folk Fest. The lineup was announced, and
Wilco
is going to be.
Wilco. That's your jam, right?
Wilco,
like that's your band.
16 or 17 times across. I was a bit of a Wilco head for a summer. Followed them around to several shows, and I've seen them in Vermont. I've seen them all over this part of the neck of the woods. So
cool.
Seeing them for the 17th time, I believe, if I can count that many times. Seeing Wilco is awesome. Jeff Tweedy is one of my favorite songwriters. And Built to Spill will be there the same night. And Built to Spill is one of my favorite indie bands as well.
Would Wilco be one of those bands where, like, it'll bring old buddies kind of together? Like, will you have some...
Oh, Kevin and I, like there's...
That's the best thing about bands like that, right?
There's
like
a group,
any chance to see an old pal?
Yeah, there's a group of 4 of us that would at times leave on a Thursday and get in a car and just drive to Vermont, watch them play in Vermont, drive to Montreal, see them in Montreal, and then drive down to Toronto and wake up in a hotel room just like having a good time.
Yeah,
just,
Wilco, man.
Just Wilco head. Yeah, Wilco. Just wake up Wilco'd.
And I got to be honest, like prior to meeting, that's just like not a scene that I was ever exposed to.
I'm into dad rock, so yeah. So you know.
Yeah,
what I mean?
I can tell by the jeans.
I'm getting it. All right, man. That's awesome.
No, but I just like I definitely I get it. It's cool stuff. It's just not a scene that I was exposed to. So that's another reason why I love hanging out with you guys, and I guess the listeners are benefiting from it too. We're not only we're talking about lots of different music and pop culture and lots of fun stuff. So it's obviously RedBlack's #1, and music is just not too far behind there. I got to be honest, right? Okay, so coming up next, we have a rant from Santino, where he is talking overreaction.
We saw a bit of overreaction last night on social media because we lost our first preseason game. It's preseason, folks.
Yeah, we got
as Santino says, the playbooks are they're in a binder right now, and they didn't pull them all out last night for second and third string wide receivers. So.
I mean, it's definitely not the first time people's hopes and dreams have been smashed in East End Hamilton, but I think there'll be a few boys that'll probably be packing their bags when they get back to Carleton shortly. So
I like it.
All right, enjoy. Hey guys, thanks for listening to the Bleed Redblacks podcast. Check us out on Twitter at BleedRedBlacks and on Facebook at facebook.com/BleedRedBlacks podcast.
Live from Brazil, here's the Red Black Renegade Rant with Santino Filoso.
Are you ready?
Do you really need to tell me that a 5'0" wide receiver is worth $40,000 more than Chad Owens?
We'll do it live.
If the helmets weren't ready this week, they should have pushed their introduction back.
It has begun.
If there's one thing I hate more than stupidity, it's overreacting. Come on, guys, you're better than that. After last night's blowout loss, certain members of our nation and the Ottawa media were quick to overreact and begin dumping on the team. I saw tons of comments on social media like, the Red Blacks are picking up right where they left off last season, or, good to see we still can't score points, or, our depth is terrible. Of those comments, the only one I can kind of agree with is the last one. The main thing that was exposed last night was our team's depth. More than ever, it's apparent we cannot afford injuries to our starters. But then again, we're a second-year expansion team. Did you really think we were as deep as the Grey Cup runner-ups? As I watched the Ticats live stream last night, and props to them for that by the way, the announcers Chris Schultz and Rod Black kept harping on the fact that Ottawa's offense seemed to be missing something. No shit it was missing something. How about our top 4 wide receivers who stayed home? At one point, Schultz even said that Moss's system might need some work. What the heck is he talking about? Did anyone really expect Moss to break out his full playbook in the team's first preseason game and expose it for the whole league to study? I certainly didn't, and I don't think he did. Preseason games are supposed to be about player evaluations, and with over 70 guys on the roster, sometimes you'll have guys getting beat and looking terribly out of place, but that's all part of the training camp process. In the preseason, guys will get a look who shouldn't be and won't end up on the team, and to be honest with you, I'd rather see second or third string guys get beat in the preseason and then get cut, as opposed to them not playing and getting cut without a fair shake. And even if certain media members in the stands couldn't read the numbers, for those watching on live stream, it was clear as day that in the second, third, and fourth quarter, it was newcomers getting beat, not guys considered starters. Perhaps those same media members are making comments that, and I quote, Rick Campbell looked shaken moments after his team was crushed and demoralized by the Ticats. Lovely that one of our local reporters thinks so little of our coach that in his eyes, our coach is shaken, rattled, and demoralized after a preseason loss played mainly by backups. Pretty stupid comment to make, don't you think? Nobody ever won a Grey Cup in June, and last I checked, preseason wins don't count for anything other than moral victories. To sum up, while last night's loss sucked and wasn't enjoyable to watch, in the preseason, wins are secondary to player evaluation, and while that's tough for some fans to accept, it is what it is. The only thing I'm panicking about from last night's loss is perhaps our special teams coverage, but that's for another rant. That's all for this week, guys. Make sure to rant back at RedBlackade, and remember to bleed RedBlacks.
Hey guys, thanks for listening to the Bleed Redblacks podcast. Check us out at bleedredblacks.ca for blogs, photos, and podcast archives. Okay, so we're going to have a quick look at the defense. We're going to, super listener, Richie, wanted us to do D-line. We decided just to do kind of a general linebacker, defensive back, and focus on a little bit of the coaching. And yeah, so Mike, why don't you get this rocking and rolling?
Well, first, talking about the coaches, we could talk about Beetlejuice.
Sure. Oh, Mr. Nelson, love that guy.
Yeah, see last week's impression from Johnny Z. Beetlejuice, unbelievable. Right? You know, so.
It was a lot of fun having him in the studio. You know, it's nice. Us old farts who need that injection of youthful enthusiasm sometimes. You know. Yeah,
and with Mark Nelson, he was saying this year, you know, moral victories are not going to cut it this year. So he's looking severely at just he wants results. And I think that's these guys we're going to talk about a few of these coaches. They're into their second year now, and that allows not only the players to gel a little better, but allows the coaches to start working amongst themselves and getting a feel for who needs this on special teams, who needs this player on defensive tackle or whatever, and really working together. So,
and we talked extensively about Nelson last year, and he's a grinder. Like he grinded every level across the U.S. for I don't know how many years, but I think that'll really help him be a good guy to judge talent and new guys coming in, because I mean, think of the players he's coached and seen over the years, right? Like everything from those D3 schools in the Carolinas, and he's been around, so
yeah,
definitely an awesome asset, and super rad voice, obviously, and was a really nice guy at the quarterback club last year.
Yeah, he was fantastic.
Yeah.
You were saying. Another guy we were looking at was Ike Charlton. He's the defensive back coach. Again, not much on this gentleman, just second year with the Red Blacks. We watched him put some gentlemen through the drills during camp life on Saturday, and I watched him during the mini camp, and he's just a stickler for detail, and making a lot of just making sure these defensive backs can read the eyes of the quarterback, which way the ball's going. Again, he's a fairly big man still. I thought you put a pair of pads on him, he'd be intimidating still.
And when he spoke, I mean, we were on the sidelines and we were listening to him. Oh, so we actually have a new guest in the studio.
Yes.
Producer Mark has a new feline. We talked about
just
him a bit
distracted
in the intro,
us.
but
Khaleesi the PODCat.
yeah. Anyways,
just distracted us by jumping up on my iPad. But this is awesome.
So if you hear any weird noises in the background, see, Mark's got an out clause now. Like if he gets lazy producing, he's just like, oh, it was Khaleesi, right?
Yeah.
Some other dragons. You gonna mess with her? I dare you.
This cat.
I dare you.
What an awesome cat. So yeah, back to just we talked about Ike Charlton, but defensive line coach has some winning pedigree too.
Yes, Leroy Blue. He, I mean, our generation will remember him as just an awesome player, and he was a Hall of Fame nominee for 2015, and he actually was inducted. He's in the Hall of Fame.
Is he in the Hall?
Yeah,
Sorry,
he is.
my bad.
Yeah. So he played 15 seasons. Yeah, he's from Napanee, so pretty much local, right?
Yep.
And as far as I know last year he was teaching grade school. I don't know if he's still doing that this year, but that's pretty. You definitely would want to make sure your homework's done if he was a guy checking you in the morning, right? Looking at your cahier d'exercice, make sure you did your spelling and stuff.
Yes.
Do they still have those?
Don't
remember
know.
those from public
Like
school.
perfect cursive? Like, does that exist anymore?
I have no
Not
idea.
in Napanee, anyway.
No.
Not in
Get,
Napanee.
get you a gig at the casino.
But he's a second season guy now with us.
Second
as well.
season guy, and as a player, he won a Grey Cup and spent a little time with Queens, and was a consultant with the Eskimos prior to joining us at the beginning of last year. So
Yeah, it seems like, and it's great. This is that second year where some of these guys can really get a feel for each other and start working on this personnel. Hopefully, that gets kind of solidified in the next couple of weeks here, or next week at least. We were saying that what were we going to say about this guy? Oh, here's another guy we saw working the drills on Saturday as well. So
just another really commanding kind of presence, and definitely is a leader. And I'm sure when he played, he was a very vocal player as well. Yeah, so I guess there's not much more to say about him. He's got his hands full along with the rest of the guys, really teaching the guys this hands rule. The contact rule, like the game is changing, and hopefully these veterans, I mean, because they didn't play in that style too, right?
no,
So I think it's really going to be up to the players and the coaches collectively to really come up with some effective strategies. Use this in our favor.
and we saw them running these repetitive drills, these no hands, no contact rule drills, and constantly with one-on-one, getting both the DBs and the linebackers really ready for contact early in that formation, which I thought was interesting. Many teams we were seeing, and I was reading about across the CFL, actually have officials helping them during training camp. Both officials from the CFL, which I thought was interesting. The CFL had no problem saying, look, we're going to send you some guys to help you get used to this new rule. And some teams were renting. I heard that we're renting referees. I think Edmonton might have been one that had a few referees come in throughout the camp and just help them in those drills and say, okay, that's a penalty, that's not a penalty, hands on, hands off. And when we talk about the game later, I didn't see a lot in the contact, but you saw some open receivers with this new contact rule. So I have a feeling that we'll see some higher scoring and higher yards
There's
per
going to
catch.
have to be some huge adjustments on both sides of the ball. And especially with the refs, like, I mean, that's also giving them a chance to kind of learn too, right? And I mean, it's a fast game, and reading a rule on paper and then actually.
Well, hopefully keep the calls a little bit more consistent as we go through the season.
Absolutely, and that's always been a tough part for a league that has part-time employees
for
officiating the game. So I hope this isn't another one of those.
Learn as you go.
Like, I mean, I feel these gray areas already exist, in all.
Yep.
Especially football, right?
Yeah.
And I mean, let's just hope that this works in our favor. That's for sure. We got lots of speed out there.
So we're going to talk about a few of these players, right? And I noticed in my research, just looking at this year's team, we got a few guys I call them the Boise State boys.
Mm-hmm.
And just to name a few of them: Jarrell Gavins, Chase Baker, John Gott, and Brandon Thompson, all from Boise State. So we have a Calgary connection with a lot of players coming out of Calgary.
Yeah.
And then you look at Boise State as another team that seems to be producing, and it seems to be there's a real focus from the scouting on that particular area.
So one of those Boise State guys I'm going to get into, defensive back Jarrell Gavins, just a little guy, 5'8", 180. So he signed late in 2013. He was actually the 4th player to ever sign with the RedBlacks. There's a little bit of random trivia for you there. So he actually dressed for the Tampa Storm and arena team.
Yep.
And he attended the Bucks mini camp. So obviously this guy's a high-level player. And he spoke to the media last week, and he said, as a defense, we have a good man coverage plan. We like to press coverage. We like to be aggressive. We like to be physical, but basically not over-aggressive. So obviously they're still looking for a kind of a more streamlined strategy. But I mean, I guess the name of the game is aggressive, and that's better than the alternative.
Yeah, he was a kid with 60 tackles last year too, right? So we had him slotted in there 3rd on the team with tackles, and with 2 INTs. So again, we're going to talk about a few of these guys that are going to step out of the shadow of Jasper Simmons from last year. He's one of them too that could step out and say, look, I'm here to shine as well.
Yeah.
Because Jasper, we call him Jasper Tackle Everything. He basically led almost the entire league in tackling because he was on the field for most of the CFL season last year.
I'm pretty sure at some point last year he tackled all 3 of us. Right?
I think so.
I don't know where. I'm pretty sure he did.
Is that how I fell that night and got the black eye? Come on, really? But yeah, no, for sure.
So he really showed, Mr. Gavins really showed what he was made up of last year. In the first game, I know you remember, he was getting lit up early.
Yeah, we talked about that.
We were like, who is this kid, right?
Yeah.
And he actually showed a lot of about his makeup when he redeemed himself with a game-clinching interception. And I know it was just an exhibition game, but there was no head hanging. Just keep on working hard, grind, and I love seeing that.
And that's something you and I look for. I do big time. I look for players that after a play, whether or not they're just going right back to this line of scrimmage and not worrying about it, or they're throwing a small tantrum, on a bad play. But he was right. He had his head in the game. So next up on our list is Antoine Pruneau.
Well, there's the linebacker that needs to step up for Mr. Simmons. Let's be honest.
Yep. And he showed it last night, actually, in the game that we'll talk about. So, yeah, again, 6 feet, 200 out of Montreal.
And that's a lean 200, right?
Lean two bills.
He's pretty cut, so he's a quick guy, but I bet you he's pretty solid.
So he lays a lick, you'll feel it, because he's got some speed behind him, which is awesome. And we said that, he's a first-round draft pick, last overall. What do we have? Late's Kevin Glenn. Right?
He'll swap Rooney, right?
Swap, right? And that's how we ended up with him. So.
Yeah, so it was 4th. I didn't mean to say last overall. It was supposed to be 4th, but 4th, last. I guess if you're at a 4, it would be last.
Yeah.
My bad. My note to strike again. John Gott, the 3-foot center. I'll never forget that one.
But 69 tackles last year. Again, in that shadow of Jasper. And just bring him up every single segment this time.
Jasper wasn't directly replaced.
No.
The only guy that we brought in who was a linebacker who, was released last week after he blew his knee out or something. Canada.
Yes, he did, yeah.
And we spoke pretty highly of him last week.
We liked what we saw.
Not only about him, what we saw, but just his bloodlines and his story. And hopefully that young kid can get back healthy and resume his career.
See him next year, maybe in camp again.
Hopefully, yeah. So they're, like I said, they're really going to be expecting a lot out of Pruneau this year, with no direct replacement for Jasper. All these linebackers are going to have to step it up, and I hope he keeps improving, and I think he will.
And he's a national, right? So we talked about that's being that young guy on the team and being Canadian. Now he can kind of lift the rest coming in, and look at just being a team leader going into the second year. That's what we're going to see. I talked about it last year during a couple of our shows. Is that as we build this team and this personnel, it'll be year 2 and year 3 where we'll start to see some guys shine that end up wanting to stay here in Ottawa. And as long as Jeff Hunt and this organization can do that, teams building a defense is important, and wanting guys to stay here and continue to play. So,
well, yeah, all week on Facebook, people are talking about who should I get a jersey.
I like that conversation because and
I think this kid, I think he's to be here a long time, and I think he likes it here. He's close to home. He's comfortable here. And he's emerging already at how old would he be? 23 or something?
Maybe,
just a kid, right?
Yep.
So, that might be my choice. I got to be honest with you.
There you go.
It's just kind of embarrassing when you have to buy a jersey that's bigger than the player that you're wearing. So.
You got
maybe I should just go with a Sir Vincent jersey and just get it over with.
Well, I'm going to ask for the beer gut size, so we'll see what they can do with that. I don't know.
Just ask, do they have one for pregnant people?
Maternity jersey.
You know those ones you can zip it into the front?
I know.
The extension?
It's perfect because then
Dragon's Den.
Down at the old RedBlack shop. Oh, it's nice you're buying your wife a jersey. Yeah, my wife.
Her name's Molson Canadian. She comes pack of 24.
Yeah. Meanwhile, I've had my gut sucked in for 20 minutes. I'm ready to pass out.
It's like no wonder your back's so sore when you get home after going out, right? You've been sucking it in all day. Hey, look, honey, I'm up another belt loop. Yeah, we'll keep sucking it in.
All right, we'll turn this into a Weight Watchers program later on. But Brandon Thompson, ladies and gentlemen,
there we go.
We'll get off my belly here for a second.
Another one of the Boise State boys.
I really, really, really like this kid. Mm-hmm. He is all positive. Yeah. Didn't hear one iota out of that kid last year. He just played ball. He's pretty relaxed on Twitter for the most part. I was impressed that he was that quiet rookie with 57 tackles and 4 INTs. So I just expect more out of this kid this year. I think he's a young man that's going to come up. Mm-hmm. And he's going to make some game breakers. I just feel it. I feel like he's going to be the INT man this year, and he's going to step up. Some of what I saw last night in the game was unbelievable from him, but they're also a team that was learning. So anytime with the new rules, but last night on the field, I thought he looked pretty good. I don't actually have his tackle stacks in front of me from last night, but just another kid from Boise State, 4 seasons with them and some big plays and more from Brandon Thompson this year.
Yeah, I mean,
there's my jersey. Look, that's kind of where I'm going. Maybe I don't know.
Yeah,
that and a tattoo. We talked about it with
a Brandon Thompson tattoo.
Yeah, we talked about it with Jeannine. Like I can't make a decision on this.
A tattoo of a Brandon Thompson jersey. That'd be awesome.
We will be seeing Steve O next week, so it's a good idea, maybe.
Well, hopefully. Well, actually, hopefully not.
Hopefully not. Yeah.
If we see him, hopefully it'll be in us watching him perform as opposed to him trashing our RV or doing whippets everywhere. Not that there's anything wrong with that. We're not here to judge.
Nobody's here to steal my whippets, but no, seriously.
Okay, so I guess we'll cut this short. We're gonna go into a little more, but we're recording on the Tuesday. The RedBlacks played last night, so we're gonna do a little quick and dirty turbo game review, as me, the poker player, calls it. So I think right now we're going to throw it to Jeannine, and she's going to do an Around the CFL segment talking about the East.
Yes, exactly what we need. We need to know who our enemy is, most importantly.
And, I mean, Jeannine's doing an awesome job, and people are totally loving what she's doing, and we're so lucky to have her. And, I can't wait to hear it.
All right.
Right on.
Hey guys, for Instagram photos, check us out at Bleed Redblacks. For game day photos, tailgate photos, and photos of whatever, come check us out at Bleed Redblacks.
Dude, isn't she a Bombers fan?
Let me laugh even harder.
But for the love of God, please start hook sliding.
Dude, whatever. She's an Ottawa fan too.
Did Buck Pierce's constant injuries not teach you guys anything?
Playoffs? I just hope we can win a game.
Enough ranting, on to the games.
Really? Righteous. Welcome to Around the CFL with Jeannine on the Bleed RedBlacks podcast.
With training camps wrapping up this past week and the preseason set to begin, it's time to start talking about things to look for on the field of play. Here are a few of the storylines that I will be following this season, beginning this week with the East. Perhaps the biggest story to watch for this season is whether the East will start out stronger than it did last year. Remember that at the midpoint of last season, every single Eastern team was struggling. And while the Ticats, Als, and Argos made the run for the playoffs exciting with a strong second-half surge, Hamilton ended up in first place with a record of 9-9. Compare that to the fourth place in the West BC Lions, who also had a record of 9-9 and ended up crossing over to the East for the playoffs. Meanwhile, the first place Calgary Stampeders clinched the West a few weeks before the end of the season with their 15-3 record. A lot was said about the imbalance between the East and the West, and whether or not the league should consider getting rid of the divisions altogether and letting the top 6 teams, regardless of geography, duke it out in the playoffs. Well, that didn't happen, and I doubt that it will in the near future. So instead, a lot of us were watching for some big moves by Eastern teams in the offseason. But with the exception of Ottawa, free agency frenzy was pretty quiet in the East. So have they done what it takes to have a stronger start in the East? Or should these teams have done more? I'll be watching to see this year. The boys are bringing you everything there is to know about the Ottawa RedBlacks, and I'm not going to spend much time dissecting the home team. But I will say that with all the depth we have added at wide receiver, coupled with the big additions to our O-line, I will be watching for more time in the pocket for Burris, a lot fewer drop balls, and a lot more well-run routes this year. And I've been pretty pumped to see DeMarco out at training camp, so I'll be watching to see how his knee is holding up post-ACL surgery. Another big theme last year throughout the entire league was quarterback injuries. In the East, the Ticats lost Zach Khaleesi in the first game and struggled to find themselves until he came back. When he did return, he was pretty fired up, finishing the season with over 3,200 yards and a 66% completion rate. Going through last year's notes, I'm reminded that he had more than a handful of games passing over 300 yards, which is an impressive stat. I'll be looking to see this young quarterback continue to grow into his role as team leader, and with Grey Cup experience now under his young belt, I think we're all expecting big things. The Ticats were also able to extend Brandon Banks, the so close to being a hero were it not for the flag on the play from last year's Grey Cup. Banks has his major fans and his major detractors. In the I don't like Bank camp are those who fault him for leaving the field of play after the flag called back his 100-plus yard Grey Cup game return, saying that at his level, a broken heart should never have stopped him from giving it his all right to the very end for his teammates. I have to admit that I agree with that point of view, but then again, I've never lost a Grey Cup game because of a flag. And I also think that Banks, all 153 pounds of him, is a dynamic player. Did his heartbreak make him a better player this year? Let's watch for that this season. A little further east in Montreal, the Alouettes had a fairly quiet free agency, although they did manage to re-sign the great SJ Green despite an awful lot of RedBlacks fans trying to entice him over to Ottawa, yours truly included. There's always chatter about SJ getting older, which I find really hard to swallow given that he was born 9 years after me. But in football years, he's not as fast or as acrobatic as he used to be. Still, he makes the big plays when the big plays are needed, and he will be a great anchor for the Montreal offense. And with the departure of Duron Carter to the Indianapolis Colts, I wouldn't be surprised if he was Crompton's #1 target this year. A few other additions to the receiving corps include former Ticat and national player Sam Jaguar, the ever-colorful Nick Lewis from the Calgary Stampeders, and good old Fred Stamps from the Edmonton Eskimos. Although the latest news from the Als training camp is that he has not been suiting up for practice. I really did want Stamps to have a second chance in Montreal, even if I wasn't really convinced that it would work out. Now it's even more doubtful. But what I will really be watching for out in Montreal is Jonathan Crompton. And not just because he and my husband share that fabulous head of hair, but because faithful listeners of my segment will remember my rants about his barely 50% completion rate game after game after game last year. But his fans, Matt Dunnigan the biggest among them, never failed to point out that with his fearless attitude, Crompton just kept finding a way to win. And that's true, but he had a lot of help on some of those not-so-great throws, with Duron Carter and SJ Green making some spectacular catches. Well, Carter is gone, and SJ may not have that many acrobatic stunts left in him. So what has Crompton done to improve his accuracy? I know that Galvia was brought back as the receivers coach, but I have a sneaking suspicion that Jim Popp has asked him to put in some time with the young gunslinger. I'm very interested to see if Crompton is just a flash in the pan in this league. If he is, I'm sure Dan Lefevre, who was picked up on free agency from the Ticats, would happily take his place. Back to Ontario, where the Toronto Argonauts lost their quarterback late in the season last year when Ricky Ray went down with another shoulder injury. He started training camp throwing tennis balls. He's now been taken off the injury list, but he isn't participating in any live drills, and he's restricted to throwing the ball no more than 25 yards. So the big question in Toronto, of course, curious is whether or not he will be ready to start. If not, it looks like Trevor Harris and Mitchell Gale are in at 1 and 2 spot. I don't know enough about either of these guys to guess how they would handle the pressure, but I do know that Ray is an outstanding quarterback and his loss on the field will be felt. The Argos last year were able to stitch together a pretty incredible offense in the second half, despite losing Andre Dury and Chad Owens for significant chunks of the season, and that's because of Ricky Ray's leadership. Even with Ray in the lineup though, it could be a very different offense this season, with Jason Moss and Brian Chu leaving the Argos coaching staff for the Ottawa RedBlacks, and Sir Vincent Rogers leaving a gaping hole on the Argo O-line. Should be an interesting start to the season on offense. But what I will really be watching for in Toronto in 2015, their last season in the Rogers Centre by the way, is what will they do on defense. The Argos seem to have no trouble putting numbers on the board in the second half of last season, but they also had no trouble giving them up. Defensive coordinator Tim Burke has resigned, citing personal reasons, although I admit to wondering if there isn't a little more to that story. He'll be replaced by Casey Crehan, last year's defensive line coach. I really want to see where Crehan takes this defense and how he plans to fix it, because not a lot of changes have been made on the field, with the exception of picking up Ricky Foley from the Saskatchewan Roughriders in exchange for Shea Emery. I get the impression that Ricky was none too happy to be traded away from the Green Machine, which he had grown to love, but I also know that he is the kind of player that can make a big impact out there. So I'll be watching to see if he can up his season-high sack record of 12 this year. Well, that's it for this week's edition of Around the CFL. Join me next week when I talk about what I'll be looking for in the West. And remember to tweet us back to share your thoughts about your league at BleedRedBlacks and at Ottawa J.
Hey everybody, thanks for listening to the Bleed Redblacks podcast. Don't be afraid to check us out on Twitter at BleedRedBlacks, and jump over to Facebook, give us a comment, facebook.com/BleedRedBlacks podcast.
Okay, camp life. So last Saturday morning, Mike picked me up bright and early. Not too bright, but around 8, the crack of 8. And went to Rotten Ronnie's for the second Saturday in a row. We really got to shut her down in that with that trend. But
that doesn't sit well with you usually.
Well, last time Mike and I went to a camp, he came recharged on a Mountain Dew kickstart.
Yeah, wow.
And you pretty much had the shakes.
I did.
So I think
it's 750 milliliters of just sugar and beaners, I think.
Yeah.
I don't know. like I was like, holy truck, stop it right here, baby.
Yeah, I'm like, let's just go to Family Fitness and do some deadlifts right now.
I think I ran home and just ran back to...
So compared to this week where you had the large coffee from McDonald's, I assume the large coffee was like child's play, right?
Yeah, it was definitely different than doing those, well, I think it's 500 milliliters of nonsense, but definitely if you need a kick, Mountain Dew is where it's at.
There you go.
Sponsored by Mountain Dew.
Yeah. Yes. Finally.
It's meth without the after effects. But seriously.
But you might still lose your teeth.
Yeah. You've seen me smile.
Save on dental, bud. Just pull them all out.
Mike's dentist is listening to the podcast, be like, cha-ching, cha-ching.
Yeah, so Saturday morning was awesome to get out there.
What a nice day, too.
And I basically went from paste white to lobster red in 2 hours, thanks to the heat and the reflection off the silver benches at Keith Harris Stadium. I did run for shade and cover before I got toasted. But let's be honest, it takes more than tear-free SPF 60 to protect this kid.
You were roasting. And I was getting kind of warm too.
Like I went to the camp looking like I just crawled out of the crypt, and I basically came home looking like I needed to put some zinc on my nose. So,
or he just came out of the lobster pot.
I ran the game. Yeah, that's right.
We had a funny moment on the way there though, because I was like,
Mike almost drove his Acura into a hydro pole, I think.
Yeah, Mark. There was like, yeah, I know. I almost hit. What was it? A pigeon in Chinatown on the way. I literally pigeon.
And this pigeon, like he knew he like this is a straight up downtown pigeon. Like
he had right away, and he knew about it.
Yeah, he did. He did. Yeah. He looked at me like, "What are you doing here, bud?" I was like, "Man, it's Sunday morning." And then on the way back, I almost hit a squirrel. It was like George Costanza. I was ready. It's insane. I said to Colin, I go, the vet bills this week will kill the podcast. It's over. It's over, man.
It's too late, man.
It's too late.
No urban creatures were
harmed.
Too late.
To make cancel this ASAP.
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, maybe that squirrel over the spit might have tasted better than the dirty egg McMuffins we had. But
Probably, yeah.
I don't know how well that would have went over. I know it's an open camp,
Yeah.
but I don't think they mean camp like start a fire and roast a squirrel. Yeah.
We had a good time, though. We saw Clint with some of the Southsider crew. I don't know all your names yet.
Yeah, it was great. We also saw Mulder was there.
Yeah.
Representing, and he was dying for a coffee, just like we were. I slurped down that first one pretty quickly, and
They should have a coffee stand there. Maybe that's what we'll do next year.
there you go, lemonade.
Lemonade stand.
Sounds
Awesome.
awesome.
Good idea.
So yeah, we also saw at Dusty Dre on Twitter, and
Yes.
went and saw her and her pup.
Yeah.
And her pup was a big fan of Mike.
Oh, yeah, I was ready. Yeah, I was scared. No.
The look that her dog gave you,
Yeah.
It made me nervous.
Yeah.
Until he looked at me and licked me.
Yeah. Well, I have a way with animals.
So is this a look of love or a look of...
I just didn't shower, and I ate chicken wings before bed the night before, so I'm just putting two and two together.
You had some of those dirty pinties, didn't you?
Yeah. Those are everywhere, right? But man, they're overpriced. Like to buy at the grocery store.
Yeah.
Like it's just chicken, right? Like
It's just chicken.
so fancy about it.
I don't know. Excuse me.
So all this chicken wing talk, Mike's getting choked up. Sorry.
Yeah. So what we did do is I wrote down some quotes we heard from special teams practice. What's the coach's name there? Dan Janowski?
Yeah,
He was
the
fun.
man.
He was awesome. I got some quotes there. We were laughing. He was yelling, "It's golden!" And then he was yelling, "Use your hands to get out of those blocks and don't squeeze the outside." And he was just really hammering.
Thumbs up.
Thumbs up.
Yeah.
Yeah. We were digging that though, and that's the same as last year. For me and for you as well, it's an experience that I never went to practices
Right.
before. I didn't play
I didn't
football, unfortunately, and I
same-
really
same
wish I
goes for
did.
me. Mhm.
I just love it. Especially I'm a special teams guy, so I'm digging that. I'm watching these
Yeah.
guys, and they were really focused on special teams this week.
Yeah,
with the
it
punt
showed
return.
last night.
I know. It's brutal. It's brutal.
Sorry.
It's brutal. And we're going to hear that interview coming up in a few minutes with Coach Campbell talking about special teams.
Prior to our turbo game.
Yeah,
recap.
we're going to get to that in a few minutes, but definitely special teams, they have to get on that. And but that practice we saw, they were focused on it. I just don't think they have the players and the personnel sorted out yet.
And you and I were blown away by the pace of the practice, and obviously them. Like I think the game last night was the earliest they'd ever played an exhibition game.
Yeah.
And going from what we saw to what we saw last night, it doesn't surprise me at all. Like expediting your training schedule that much to accommodate a game you're not ready for. Like I don't know. I mean, we'll get into this later, but
that defense made no bones in those practices about how they wanted to get to the QB and sack them. And this practice was at full tilt. We saw it, and and I couldn't stop commenting about that.
And it was a no pad practice, but they were still playing tough, and there was still some contact, and definitely see some eager young guys.
And they were working the clock, which was interesting. They wanted to make sure that they've got this timing down pat, and making sure the calls at the line of scrimmage were happening with gusto. Like it was unbelievable. I think that that attention to detail that we're seeing so early in camp, I'm hoping that translates into further detail as they move on.
And you see Chu and Jason Moss out on the field, and those two guys are never further than a yard apart from each other. They're definitely one A and one B.
You made a comment that they were back and forth having a good chat, looking at papers together. Whatever they're doing together, we'll say it again. This year will be the year they start to gel.
Yeah.
By year 2 and 3, those guys should be on. They won't even have to look at each other. Things will just happen on the field for them, especially in practice.
I don't know. They just command a presence, and I guess that's why Moss was such a good leader, and that's why he's here in the first place. And I mean, Chu's got the ring to prove it as well. So
they were doing a lot of routes really tight to the sidelines as well. We were noticing. I'm not sure what the plan was there, but they were working those sidelines really, really, really well. So.
And there were a few guys fighting it. I don't know. I thought that I want to talk to Samson. Had a tough go.
He did.
Yep.
And I'm not going to mention any of those guys working the punt return, but the coach was definitely on them about making sure that they were following through on their practice plays.
And
we heard some verbiage.
Don't take a play off, even if in practice.
And we heard out of the players tripping those players in practice saying, don't give it up, don't give it up. And,
right.
and I think that
accountability from the inside, that's what counts.
I was digging that, and I put that in my notes. And then we saw, and we'll talk about it later, but I thought Lanier did pretty well last night. on special teams.
Absolutely.
So, and he definitely stood out during that during the practice during that camp on Saturday. We noticed that Jamil might be on the outside looking in, which is unfortunate. And we'll talk about his play coming up again in that quick game review. But he did well last night. But he was really he wasn't really focused on during the camp. So I'm not sure. I really do believe he'll be on the outside looking in. So
it's amazing to me what they can jam into a 2-hour practice, though. Like, obviously they're prepping. I know they just practice in the morning, but the day prior, I mean, they must obviously spend the day prepping for those 2 hours, right? Like, it's well organized. Everyone's on the same page, and you get the offense and defense practicing, against the same thing, so when they come together, they can actually...
They move quick because they only got so much time. Part of that agreement is they only got 2 hours.
And, good on the team for opening this up for everybody. And I think I know when next week they're back at it, and same thing, practice are open. If you guys are curious when the times are available, they're on the website. And
they're on redblacks.com.
And it's really cool. Just once to go down there, field level, really get an idea of the size and speed of these guys. I highly recommend it. I mean, even the second time is just as I feel like a little kid.
Each time I go, I'm in the same boat. For a couple of things that you notice is, number one, more people are coming out to watch, and number two, across the league, this camp life, this hashtag camp life that we kind of started here in Ottawa, is starting to catch on, and you're seeing a lot more fans talk about training camp and going to them. And when you look at Edmonton and those boys at Edmonton Eskimo Empire podcast, they were talking about just how many people come out, and they're live casting from theirs, and that's good.
Yeah.
Good for them. They're doing interesting stuff with their technology and media. But you're seeing they have a great turnout in Edmonton, and good for them for that camp turnout. And I think that's going to be us in a few years, because we'll get back to, once FIFA's gone and everything, that stadium is ours. I think they'll practice more out of TD Place, and I think it's a more inviting place for people to come and see the team. So
yeah, for sure. I just love getting right down field level. I think it's just awesome.
You see the speed of the game,
and hearing it, too, is really awesome.
Yeah, just hearing Coach Nelson, who didn't have a voice, he was like, "Yeah, what's going on, guys?" Like, just pretend Johnny's here this week. But I can do that Scotty Farrell voice too. So.
Now, we did do our community service after the game.
Yeah.
Talking to a few guys on the way out. I made sure they all knew, these guys who are new to Canada and new to the nuances of our beautiful province. Rule number 1, I said, do not drink the water in Hamilton.
Yeah.
That's just a simple advice coming from a dude that lived there and obviously has suffered from my years there.
Yes.
Obviously.
Obviously.
So yeah.
Yeah, you did, and you made no bones about it. You said, "Son, don't drink the water when you're in Hamilton," and he said,
I don't know. Thanks.
Thanks. Yeah, it was.
He's like, thanks, dude. But I didn't have no idea who he was. He must be a young guy from the States. I, just took out my phone. And
he said something about the water here in Ottawa, though.
Oh, yeah. That's right.
That's what I was trying to get at. I was throwing that to you.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, that's okay.
You put it on a tee for me, and I just totally fanned on it.
Yeah. He said something about, I've tasted the water here.
He's like, trust me, I don't want to drink it here either. It's called chlorine and fluoride, bro. Enjoy it.
Enjoy it. That's awesome. So we're going to do a Turbo Game recap coming up here in a moment, but we're going to cut to a Johnny Z segment, just a quick clip, and it's 3 minutes of Coach Campbell talking about the play of the team after last night's loss in Hamilton. So we're going to hear that. Listen, if you haven't heard it already, it's Coach Campbell talking about that loss and a few things, and we're going to talk about it after that. So we'll be right back with a Turbo Game recap.
The latest news and headlines from your team and your city.
Say what again? Say what again?
You serious? Welcome to the Zed Files on the Bleed Redblacks podcast.
Disappointing early in the game as we had a chance to make some plays. Their first touchdown should be a sack. And, those are the plays that we have to make. And when we get to the regular season, those plays have to be made. Another one comes to mind where we just have a ball thrown right to a receiver and it ends up getting deflected and intercepted. And those are the ones that are killer, that we need to make those plays.
special teams kickoff return again, kind of an Achilles heel last year.
Yeah, we're going to make sure we get guys coached up and 5 and 12 guys that can cover a kick, because we're not going to sit and watch that all year. Now, I'm going to watch it. I'm going to keep my head about me, and there's a whole bunch of new guys playing, but we can find 12 guys to coach up and make sure that they can cover a kick.
Any update on that, Carter?
I haven't talked to our trainer yet, so I don't have that information right now.
Positive sign. Torrance Hunt near the end of the game made some big plays for you.
Yeah, he's got great speed and made some plays, and our offense was able to start generating some yards and stuff, and it'll be a big week for us. We're gonna bounce back. We're gonna be playing all our guys next week, and make sure that we get better.
What about your quarterbacks? What do you think of their various performances today?
I was happy to see Danny get in there and be able to move the ball some. The thing we want to make sure we improve on is our tempo and our flow. We just couldn't seem to get into a rhythm, and we'll be working on that.
Preseason means, obviously it's nothing in the standings, but I'm guessing you wanted to get some momentum coming out of that.
Yeah, I mean, we were committed to play everybody, but all these guys are good football players that we need to make sure we coach them up right and get them to play hard, and we'll watch it and correct things and move on.
What did you tell them in there?
It's a big week for us. There's a lot of positive things about this football team, and we just need to make sure winning is very difficult in pro football, and it takes everyone's best effort, and we just got to make sure we understand that.
Thanks, Cody.
Hey guys, thanks for listening to the Bleed Redblacks podcast. Check us out on Twitter at BleedRedBlacks and on Facebook at facebook.com/Bleed Redblacks podcast. Game recap. Turbo game recap. So this is going to be a quick and dirty summary of kind of what happened last night, unfortunately, in the Dirty Hammer.
37-10.
Yeah, and like that score doesn't really tell the tale at all.
No. And we heard Coach Campbell in that segment just a moment ago talking about coaching these players up.
And level of effort, and sounds like he's ready to pull the trigger if he's going to make some tough choices.
I agree. He has to, because he needs to get this. He needs to get that core personnel ready now.
Yeah.
And you can't mess around now. The rule changes. These guys, when we talked about in the last segment about practicing special teams and getting on the same page, means you need those players that will be in those positions to start making the right decisions based on hardcore, detailed practice. And that's going to have to come within the next few weeks.
And one way I can't stand watching my team lose is by giving up special teams touchdowns. And going back to the start of last year, I mean, we're definitely leading the league in that. And, I mean, we gave up one last night and would have been two if it wasn't for the penalty. So with these new rule changes, our special teams guys, as Campbell mentioned, that's got to be a focus, man.
We got torched by the rookie QB.
We did. Mr. Matthews, he came in. So the Tycat starting guy, they just left him in Stony Creek or wherever those guys. Ancaster, probably. Some nice houses up in Ancaster. So he's probably chilling in Ancaster. I assume he's at the game, actually. Yeah. But they didn't dress him. But Mr. Matthews sure looked awesome. 9 of 15. Sorry. It's falling out of my chair here.
Yeah, 9 of 15.
I try to put the tilt on it, you know. Someone's on tilt. $188 and 2 touchdowns, and he looked awesome. So
our guy looks solid, though.
That's right. So Henry had a great first quarter, 5 of 7, very efficient. And then, but I mean, the best thing for me was seeing Mr. Danny O have some success, move the ball, get some points. 11 for 13, 93 yards, and that was the highlight of the game for me, was seeing Mr. O'Brien really show us what he's made of. I mean, we gave him a hard time last year at third stringer, but most times when he came in last year, it was a pretty undesirable scenario near the end of the game, game out of hand. So I like what I saw out of him.
They have a tough decision. They have a tough decision right now in that third spot. And he, that connection that he was making out there was just he really had the ball moving, and he seemed to be right in his own headspace there.
And speaking of quarterbacks, Mr. DeMarco got in there too. He didn't have as much success, and he had a turnover. But what you and I noticed about him at camp, #camp life, was this guy's build. Like, we couldn't tell who he was at first because his shoulders were so broad. That guy's
solid.
I know. I didn't know he was that built.
I thought he was a small linebacker.
But man, like I don't know. He was standing next to like Sholo or something, and it was like,
yeah, I'm like, which one's Sholo?
Yeah.
Like it was, like the only way you could tell was the legs.
Yeah.
Because
right.
Sholo's calves look like
DeMarco's waist.
Yeah. I think O'Brien, and you're right. I just want to go back to O'Brien quickly. He really connected with Jamil Smith because I want to focus on that for a second. We talked about in the last segment about how Jamil looked like he was on the outside looking in. But by the time he got in front of O'Brien, he really made a name for himself. A few catches and
showed some toughness.
Showed some toughness. Held onto the ball as he got smacked around.
And I think that's part of the reason why we like him so much.
Yeah, and that's why I stuck up for him last year.
He didn't have a turn. He didn't give up the ball once last year, and he got crushed game after game, and he'd always bounce back. And I think that was like pretty endearing as a fan to see a guy who's smaller, shorter, lighter than everyone else, and
getting just rocked,
not afraid at all to
and
take
getting
it,
back up like a punching bag, just
like those clowns or whatever.
I was trying
with
to
the
make
sand
a
the bottom,
yeah.
Or with those things at the chip stands that do this.
Yeah, just get right back.
What are those things?
The wacky flailing arm inflatable tube man.
Yeah, those. Can we get a Bleed RedBlacks one of those things?
Yeah, it's in the budget.
If Mark, you put one of those in front of your house, you're gonna have fans flocking here, man.
or the bylaw officers from the city of Ottawa, one of the two. It really could go either way.
That's right. I don't think they come this part of town after dark, though.
They don't come down to the hood.
That's right.
Oh my God! I like what a great image we've made for our studio here. Right? I like it.
Remember that picture that Cliffy put up last year of like the couch made out of beer cans?
Yes.
He's like, "Is this the studio?" So maybe we should be careful with our photos. We're really showing that Mark's house is actually pretty awesome.
Yeah,
so,
that's right.
Yeah, it's like don't show the fancy leather couch. They'll know we might get robbed.
But yeah, just going back to Jamil, and I believe he made a block on the touchdown play as well. So he was really pushing, and that's all I'm gonna leave it at that.
We're obviously rooting for him.
Yeah,
100%. Great community guy, great guy, and even if he can slide into the practice roster,
we need that depth.
Yeah, absolutely.
Special
teams. Okay, so can we talk about something else first?
Okay, we'll go back to special teams at the end.
So I couldn't believe, like, I was watching the game on the PODCat stream, okay?
Yeah.
And they were using the scoreboard for like I guess where the ads would normally be playing.
Yes.
And they kept showing Old Dutch potato chips. Like, I didn't know those had encroached the Manitoba-Ontario border. Like, I thought that's a Western thing. Like
Old Dutch?
Like Old Dutch potato chips. I think Old Dutch, I think the West, right? I think Safeway, I think, you know what I mean?
I always thought of like the corner store.
Pilsner.
They always sold it at the gas station was the Old Dutch potato chips.
Yeah,
it's a gas station
Okay,
brand.
so you grew up in Western Ontario.
Southwestern Ontario.
So maybe
represent.
So you're even more west than Hamilton. So maybe it's just an Eastern Ontario thing. We just don't get our chips in a box. I don't know.
You're too close to Montreal. That's the problem.
Well, because we got Yum Yum because of that. Remember, instead of getting Dutch, we had Yum Yum as our second.
Okay,
tier.
This is riveting, guys.
This is riveting radio. Jesus,
what a game
and
recap.
Now for stories from the 3 United Counties.
Yeah.
Okay, special teams.
I used to get my Yum chips. Like, what is this show? We're a bunch of old men talking about the good old golden days of potato. Golden days of potato chips.
If they're not lightly salted, I don't want them.
Yeah. Holy moly. Back on track, guys. It's early on in our season. Like, where's Coach Campbell yelling at us? Get back on track, boys. Focus.
I mean,
thumbs up, guys. Let's go. Thumbs up.
So we had to make some tough cuts, but Mike, sorry, bud, we're gonna have to go.
Like I haven't heard that before.
They wouldn't say sorry though.
No.
We apologize for nothing.
Why are you still here?
Why are you still here?
So special teams just straight up looked terrible.
Oh my word!
And I mean, Coach Campbell made that pretty clear. And Quincy McDuffie's 98-yard kickoff return, like, untouched.
The actual punting wasn't bad.
No, yeah, he was getting them out there, but it was still like the
coverage
lanes
was terrible.
And yeah, like I said, they had one. They had two. One was brought back, and there were a few other times. And I'm getting nervous every time. Like when I hear the announcer go, "Oh, it looks like he's got some room outside." I'm basically just like, I'm out. Drop the mic and bouncing, going to Max, get a pop or something.
Yes, and some yum chips.
I don't want to lose a game that way. I can't handle that.
I can't either. And
you take it for granted, I think, right? When it's done well, defended well.
And 2 punt returners.
Huh?
I think that might be an option. They were talking about it last night a little bit.
Surprised Mr. Furley, that's for sure.
I love that. I work on my memes.
Mike was showing some Three's Company love last night. So.
Come on, knock on my door.
Exactly.
So my meme was 2 punters,
yeah.
2 punt returners,
yeah.
2. But we'll. I think that could be an option in the future. Maybe you'll see 2 guys standing back there in order to kind of mix it up. Especially with we might see all kinds of different hybrid options when it comes to punt special teams, especially the punt return. So it's a very exciting part of the game.
So speaking of exciting, nice segue. We're so good at this. Torrance Hunt was one of the RedBlacks' bright spots last night.
Yeah.
Solid. That little guy, he sure looked a hell of a lot better than he did in camp. That's for sure.
Yeah, we
because he was fighting it, man.
He was fighting hard.
Yeah, and I don't know if he had sunblock in his eyes or what, but man, like
He's
was
ready.
nice to see him. It was nice to see him perform when it counted, for sure. Yeah, so many sketchy calls by the officiating, and
I didn't get it.
And as Santino put it, looks like they're in mid-season form.
I know it.
Amazing.
The optimism from that guy. And it was difficult to read a lot of what was going on because there wasn't instant replay, so you didn't get to see the penalty a second time.
Mm-hmm.
But it didn't feel like a penalty the first time. So, and that call, when you'd watch it, especially the roughing the passer, particularly against the RedBlacks, I felt was a blown call. Overall, my assessment of that game was there's positives to take away from it. Number one, Henry Burris looked pretty good. And he's going to start, and that's without his wide receiver core that sat and will be ready for this week. So I don't know. I'm behind Henry Burris this year. I believe that this will be his what we'll call a RedBlacks breakout year for him, and I believe we'll see some positive movement forward with that offense from a wide receiver and quarterback point of view.
And he's a passionate guy, and he's not going to let it happen again this year.
No, you can see it on his face.
And we've talked to him a few times about it, and he's serious about it, and he's apologized. And we've talked about this on the show, and we said, Hank, don't be sorry.
Yep.
We know you're giving it all, and he's like, you have no idea how it feels from my end.
Yep.
Like he just didn't say this, but I mean, like, he's a winner. And that's what he's programmed to do.
It's in his pedigree.
Absolutely.
So that's a positive I took from it. Henry Burris had a good game. I think that'll improve this week when we see him with a full stack of receivers. And I can't say enough about what we saw from Danny O'Brien and Brock Jensen. By the time he got in there, he showed his mobility and his ability to get out of a tackle.
Yeah,
was awesome.
And yeah, he got a taste of the CFL, so he's officially a CFL quarterback, right?
Absolutely.
So, yeah, that's sometimes it's all it takes, right?
So for more insight, what are we going to do for more insight? You want to?
Yeah, I think so. Our contributor and just amazing writer Santino, better known as RedBlack Renegade on Twitter. He's if you want a good detailed game recap, or he's also got a lot of really interesting articles. He did a thing about where he actually used ArcGIS to figure out, show people where the players are from. That's a really cool creative writer. And if you guys are interested in checking out his stuff, go to thirddownnation.com. There's also a lot of sources across the league that friends of ours, BC Lions Den guys got some stuff up there, and anyway, just a really cool progressive accumulation of all CFL media, and he's doing an awesome job there, and
super talented writer too.
Absolutely,
Super
and if you'd
talented.
like something, a little more detailed game recap than the Turbo one we just provided,
with a bit of a samba flavor to it as well.
Yeah, of course. But yeah, if you. If you're into that and you want to get a little more in-depth knowledge, go see what Santino's doing over there. He's doing an awesome job. Okay, so I think that's about it. We're going to roll into Johnny Z has a new band for us featuring one of the members from Onion Face that we talked about a few weeks ago.
Yeah, this week's Bytown Beats segment. The featured artist is Trunk. They're a 3-piece instrumental rock band with elements of the funk, the groove, and the psychedelic. They sound like a jam band, man, and I'm like really excited for that. Unfortunately, I'm not gonna lie to you. We got these notes in here late to us. We're a little bit rattled, so I didn't get to hear the music this time. So I'll hear it the first time when we play the segment on the way out. On guitar is Mike Holuge, aka the Dalberg, and on bass is Jordan Edgecombe, aka Edge Lad, so we can tell they're a jam band already. Maybe I'm liking this.
If you got Lad in your nickname, it's a jam band.
Yeah, man. Oh wow, man. So on drums is
on, man.
No, man.
Right on.
Well, we're in a band called Trunk.
Is there gonna be any jam bands at? No, they won't be.
Montebello?
No hologram Jerry Garcia.
Did you not see on the back of the ticket? It actually says no Birkenstocks allowed.
And on drum, of course, is Stefan Onion Face Jurowitz. All audio is again engineered and produced by Stefan. So really, we're going to see some more of this talented young man working his magic. This week's song is called Madison Levy's Coconut Island. Check them out at trunkband.bandcamp.com. That website again, trunktheband.bandcamp.com. I'll try and get that out. I'm not very good at getting websites out on this show.
www.
Okay.
Thanks again. Second time this year.
Mark, he'll never. It's the third time he's been on the joke.
Yeah.
It's been on the joke, been on the mic, and he's. Yeah, so let's just see how funny it is next time.
Who's getting cut now?
Yeah.
Who's getting cut now? Okay, guys, what a great show again. Love you three being in the studio with us. Awesome. We'll see everybody next week. Enjoy the week and enjoy Bytown Beats segment.
Awesome.
Peace out.
Right on.
Here at Bleed Redblacks, we love our football, but we also love the music our great city has to offer. It's the Bytown Beats local music spotlight segment on the Bleed Redblacks podcast. Today's featured artist, Trunk. Thank you for listening to this week's installment of the Bleed Redblacks podcast. All musical content used in this podcast is all local Ottawa talent. If you are a local artist wanting to get your material heard on Bleed Redblacks, send us a message on our Facebook group. Tune in next time, and remember to bleed red black.